to my sewing room. I have such an exciting show for you today. I've called the show Patchwork. Patchwork lace, patchwork Seminole, Seminole patchwork, whatever you want to call it, but we have several different types of patchwork for you. Now then, patchwork is wonderful, done in lace and ribbons and all the wonderful things we use in heirloom sewing. This particular little dress has Seminole patchwork on the top. Do you see the pieces of ecru lace? 2 different widths of ribbon, 2 different widths of pink, 2 different widths of blue, put together with a little piece of insertion, pretty little Swiss insertion, which actually you can make on your sewing machine also, to make this little bib to go on top of the little Swiss batiste dress. Aha, I just think this is gorgeous too. This is a little blue dress, once again with Seminole patchwork across the top. I've used white lace and blue ribbon and blue batiste. There's another little detail here I think you'll really like. These little covered buttons, using a kit from your fabric store, are covered with blue ribbon. Down at the bottom of this dress is one of the prettiest fancy bands that I've ever seen. Once again, it uses the blue ribbon, the blue batiste, beautiful white lace, and it's finished with entredeaux and lace edging. One more darling little dress. I'm going to leave it hanging here so I can put my hands under here and show you better. It has a little sailor bib on the top. The patchwork on this dress is done right over here on the edge, and it's done with netting and the robin's egg blue Swiss batiste, a little strip of Seminole patchwork over here, and then there is edging on both, insertion and then edging that finishes off the side of this little sailor bib. Maybe I'll turn this around and show you how cute it is in the back too. See how the little sailor bib comes around and that pretty little patchwork. Let's learn how to do Seminole patchwork. Travel with me over to the teaching boards, if you will. Seminole patchwork is easy to do, either on the machine or the serger. I have chosen a lovely silk dupioni in order to illustrate this particular technique. The strip in the center is a little bit more narrow than both of the side strips. I chose to use the serger, so these 3 are serged together. The next step in Seminole patchwork comes drawing the lines equally, of course, and then cutting along those lines. Well, my fingernail caught it. Cutting along those lines all the way across with a rotary cutter is best. Now here is a real important concept for Seminole patchwork. You line up the pieces that you've just cut, making little stair steps. Do you see how I'm going to walk up the stairs? 1, 2, 3, 4. You walk up the stairs. In other words, you move the blocks over, 1 color block at a time. Let me show you a little trick on this to show you how you remember the stair steps. All right, I'm going to move this block down. Do you see I've moved the red color over a little bit, and that makes a stair step. What if I did not move the red color over? That does not make a stair step. What if I moved it over the wrong way? Well, that's a funny looking stair to me. So if you can just remember to move it over 1 time, stair step, stair step, stair step, I think it will be easy to remember. After they've all been put together, all your little stair steps, then turn them sideways and trim off the little stair steps you just made. You can see on this side, I've already trimmed off the stair steps. Let me show you how to do this. Today I have invited my dear friend Kathy McMakin, who is the construction editor for So Beautiful magazine, to be my guest. Kathy, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Martha. Today we are going to be demonstrating how to do Seminole patchwork using your serger. Now keep in mind you can use your sewing machine if you'd like to use your sewing machine. The thing about using the serger is it neatens the edges of your seams as you sew. The first thing you'll do in Seminole patchwork is cut your strips. Your strips, in our sample that we are going to sew on today, we have a center strip that is cut to 1 1/4 inches. And then we have 2 pieces on the edges that are cut 1/4 inch wider than our center piece. So these are cut 1.5 inches wide. Now, if we wanted to put more strips in the center, they would be the same width as this center piece. So they would also be 1.25 inches wide. So you can put as many pieces in the center as you'd like. The first thing that you're going to do is you're going to cut your pieces, and then you're going to serge those pieces together using a 1/4 inch seam. Now, some sergers, you may not know where a 1/4 inch seam is on those sergers. So what you have to do is you take a ruler and you place it up under your foot, you find out where your needle is going to sew, and there's a little mark on this foot that shows you where the needle sews. And we see that the edge of this ruler at a 1/4 inch mark, the edges of my pieces of fabric are going to fall right against the edge of my plate. So I will put the edges of the fabric, we're going to place these right sides together, and we're going to start sewing our strips together. And we have this serger set up on 3-thread rolled hem. And we're just going to serge these pieces together so that the edges of my fabric fall right on the edge of my plate, because that's where I need to place my fabric so that it sews at a 1/4 inch seam. Now we have our piece serged together. And let me turn it around so that you can see. Let's turn it around on this side. You can see what a pretty rolled hem that is, right on the edge. And when you open it up, those two pieces are sewn together. Now you just continue to sew these pieces together, and you'll end up with each of your outside pieces. So you have your center pieces and then your outside pieces. Now we already have pieces that have been sewn together. And they're right here, and you can see we have the turquoise, the burgundy, and the ecru. The next thing we need to do is we'll mark the piece so that we can cut the piece apart. The markings on the piece need to be the same width that the inside pieces were cut. So in this particular sample, our inside pieces were 1.25 inches wide, so our strips need to be cut 1.25 inches. So we'll place the ruler down, and we are on a cutting mat, and we have a rotary cutter here, and we just cut those apart at 1.25 inches and 1.25 inches, and you can see how neatly they are cut apart. Now we're going to take these and we're going to slide these down that we already have in our stair steps. So you can see how we just line them up so that they are now stair steps from each other, and we can place them right sides together just on top of each other, matching the seam. And you know, you can stick a pin in there if you'd like. If you're afraid that it's going to shift on you, you can just pin the two seams together. But you want to make sure that you keep your pins away from the blade of your serger if you're using a serger with this. And we just serge those right together. Okay. And we'll open them up. Okay. We have those two, we have those two pieces sewn together. And then we'll go to our next one. And here we have chained these off so that we have just done a continuous chain of 2 strips. We've done 2 pieces together, those ran through the serger, and then we did 2 more pieces, and those ran through the serger. And then, once we have all of our pieces sewn together, they look like this. And then to get them so that they look like a band, we turn it sideways so that they look like a diamond, so that our burgundy strips look like diamonds. And we cut the edges off and cut the edges off, and there we have our band.
Thanks, Kathy. Isn't that fun and exciting? Kathy, before we leave the sewing machine, I wanted to show everybody the strips that we used. Remember this beautiful little heirloom sewing dress right here? I wanted to show you the strips that we used. In other words, here's the band as before it was cut out to be the back yoke. And Kathy, help me hold this just a minute, right there. This is the strip that was made. Can you see just the pieces of lace and fabric and ribbon together? This was the strip that was used before we cut it apart and made this beautiful fancy band on the bottom of this lace dress. So you see, it really is easy to do, and I think quite elegant. We have the beautiful Australian blouse, which is our blouse for this series, the ladies' blouse, with Seminole patchwork strips running down both sides of this elegant ladies' blouse. Let me just show you real quickly how that went together. Here are our pattern pieces, so we knew how wide to make it. We sewed together all of these strips Then drew off the lines right here, cut them into pieces. You can see what we've got the pieces cut together up here. Then moving over in stair-step fashion, stair-step, stair-step, sewed them together, turned it sideways, cut off one side, and as you can see, this side has already been cut off, and that's just as easy as it can be to use Seminole patchwork and heirloom sewing. You know, our little doll even has a patchwork dress. My little doll today has on a precious baby blue silk dupioni dress. Once again, the style, as you can see from the whole picture here, is in the little drop-waisted antique style that we've used for the pattern for the whole series. Now, her patchwork is right up here on the neckline. Do you see all the little pieces? Let me hold her arm up here so you can see all the little strips that have been stitched in. And by the way, her patchwork was done on netting. There is netting underneath this. Now I'll put her little arm back down. As I travel down the bottom of this little dress to the skirt, I think this is a real interesting treatment here. Just a piece of antique lace has been stitched down, but guess how it was stitched down? This is a lovely decorative stitch on the sewing machine, once again done in ecru, and I used the decorative stitch to stitch the doll's lace down on her silk dupioni dress. Patchwork is what our show is all about today. This little patchwork was really very easy, and you can do it too. First of all, I cut out, here's the little top to the doll dress done out of the silk dupioni. I'll move that over. Now then, here is how the patchwork began. It is on a piece of netting about the size of the front of the doll dress cut out of the silk dupioni. Now, I traced off the little balera, if you will, and then I'm getting ready to, and by the way, what is this shiny stuff under here? Well, that's water-soluble stabilizer that I will use when I stitch my lace down to the netting. The next step comes in placing piece next to piece of lace, piece next to piece of lace. Now let me just show you how that process works, okay? I can come over here, I place them any way I want to. There's a piece of lace edging, and you can use edging on the interior of this doll dress too. The choice is yours. There's another piece I'll place like that. Now after I get all of these pieces of netting placed, I will go to the sewing machine and we're sewing right through the water-soluble stabilizer. I will sew them all down. Oh, let's use a big piece. This is kind of fun. It's kind of like making mud pies used to be. You know, just get anything you want to go in your mud pies in the yard, although this is not mud pies, certainly. But anyway, you just put one piece after another, just slip it underneath. If I want to put another piece of edging, I'll slip it underneath there, side by side. And then on this little doll dress, the way I finished it was, I just put one little single motif right there. After you do all of your shaping, then you go to the sewing machine and zigzag it all together. Now, we have a quilt square with, once again, another type of patchwork made out of lace for you. The quilt square for today is an old-fashioned quilting pattern called tumbling blocks. I believe we have a little bit of a different twist to tumbling blocks. This particular square, if you will look at it real carefully, this looks like a block. Do you see the top of the block? It actually looks like a child's block. We have white at the top, medium at this side of the bottom, and dark on that side of the bottom. By the way, this is also, these blocks are on a beautiful dusty pink silk dupioni. Therefore, we put them together with a wonderful wing needle entredot stitch. Now, how do you make those tumbling blocks? I'm going to show you. First of all, I start out with strips of lace. Now here is the template. I'm going to cut the tumbling block pieces. You can see it's a triangle. Now then, excuse me, not a triangle, it's a diamond, I'm sorry. Now then, after you put the strips together, this diamond has to fit in here like so. So your diamond has to be the same width as these strips of lace which have been butted together. I can move it up here and you can see I will use my scissors and cut it off. One more factor for the tumbling blocks is I have a white piece of lace, a medium piece of lace, and a dark piece of lace. That'll become a little bit more clear when I show you the next piece. Now then, this is how you begin. Fold your square in the middle, finger press it or actually press it, and begin with the pieces of lace. Any one will be fine to begin with. It really doesn't matter which one. All right, in this case, I'm going to begin with the white piece of lace. You see my white diamond goes in there at that angle right there. Then comes my dark diamond, and actually it doesn't look like a diamond when I hold it up like that, but it is. It goes in there, and then my medium toned diamond goes right in here. Let me show you, and you can, it doesn't matter where you put your tones as long as the 3 ones go. All right, here is my block, right here in the middle. Do you see the first block? I have light at the top, and this one I have medium on the side and dark on the other side. Now, isn't that a beautiful quilt square used in our silk dupioni quilt? Actually, we have a little bit more patchwork for you also. We have a lovely pillow, which I believe would be nice in really any room of your home. I have a beautiful decorator black silk dupioni pillow for you with what I think are some really unusual touches. The pillow is round, and it has some very beautiful triangular shaped pieces of lace zigzag together. Can you see one after one after one after one after one after zigzag together with a little piece of lace edging at the bottom of each one of these triangular pieces of lace, and then a little piece of insertion that goes all the way around the pillow. Another really sweet feature of the pillow is this little piece of lace edging gathered and a beautiful cameo button stitched on. Actually, if you wanted to, you could use a real cameo if you have one somewhere in your collection that really isn't, you know, good enough to wear, but you might like to use it. How is this pillow made? Actually, it's really very easy. I start off with 2 patterns. Here is the first pattern, sort of the triangle number 1, and here is the piece of lace, and then I have triangle number 2. All right, the pieces of lace that have been stitched together, all of those little pieces of lace just butted together and stitched together. And then I put the center, and by the way, there's edging on the bottom. And then I put the center edge over on the edge and cut the little lace diamonds out, okay? Now, after the lace diamonds have been cut out, then comes the time to arrange them in the center of the pillow. As you can see, I have arranged piece number 1 with piece against piece number 2. Piece number 1 against piece number 2, piece number 1 against piece number 2, and so forth, going all the way around the pillow. Do you see in the center there is edging that sort of makes this octagonal circle, well, it isn't really a circle, it's an octagon, that the little cameo is in the middle. Now, after these are all arranged, it is then time to stitch them down, simply either a straight stitch or a zigzag. Now, after that, I'm going to take the little piece of edging, and I'll have to pull a string and sort of shape it to take it all the way around, and then we put the edging all the way around. You know, I have this string pulled here for a reason. This is a little piece of edging in the center, and I shaped it with some pins and then pulled a string to make it lay down, and then in the center I'm going to put my little cameo and glue it down. That's all there is to that. Now, I have one more little trick to show you. I've used a piece of batting to go in behind the black silk dupioni. Have you ever made a pillow and stuffed it and had the pillow sort of lumpy? Well, if you'll put a little piece of quilt batting behind the front and the back of your pillow before you stuff it with your fiber fill or whatever you stuff it with, it will keep it from becoming lumpy. Well, little craft pillow, isn't that fun? Little cameo pillow. We also have a really pretty craft for you, something kind of exciting and very, very easy. I started to call this craft today your flea market find. However, I don't know for sure that you don't have some of these old things at your house to use. If you will look at our little project for today, here is a cream pitcher which has been made into a pincushion. You see a little pair of scissors slipped in the cream pitcher where you pour the cream. Here's a little old vase, a little rosebud of some kind, which has been, along with some little antique lace, has been made into, pulled it out, has been made into a hat pin. By the way, don't let your grandchildren play with those things. That wouldn't be too good, would it? Then this is a little odd teacup and saucer, which we've done the same technique I'm going to show you in a minute, and also we put hat pins. By the way, these are glued together, so don't worry, they won't come apart. Now, how do we make these nice little projects out of something that probably you might throw away, such as an old cream pitcher that doesn't match anything anymore? All right, first of all, get a tomato pincushion, you know, at any sewing store. A piece of quilt batting is what this is, and then this is a piece of red silk dupioni. All right, I'm going to smush all of those together, and I have a piece of red florist wire here. I'm going to wrap around it, wrap the florist wire all the way around it, get it nice and tight, and then I'm going to use my glue gun, put glue in and around, or I can just use another type of glue, my liquid glue, and put it all in there, and then I'm going to put the whole thing right down in there and hold it till it gets kind of tacky, till the glue gets a little bit tacky so it won't slip out. Then I let it dry. Now the finishing, and by the way, that's probably about where it should stick out. The finishing touch then will be to take a piece of gold braid, glue it all the way around, and make the prettiest little pincushion you've seen in a long time. I'd like to invite you to go to my attic where I have a really beautiful antique waiting for you. Antique dress I have to share with you today, I bought at a flea market in Paris. Actually, it was awfully dirty at the time I bought it, but when I looked at it, I knew that after we cleaned it up and pressed it and starched it, you were really going to enjoy looking at the details. It's really a very simple little dress. It has four triangular pieces, one on the shoulders, one in the center, and one on the side. Now let me go down the dress so you can kind of get the details. Notice these little release tucks. By the way, this dress is made completely by hand. You know, some people think that hand, H-A-N-D, is a four-letter word. But I'll tell you a little secret. I love garments made by hand, even though mostly I work on a sewing machine. I'd like to lift up the little triangular piece here so you can see these absolutely beautiful released pin tucks. Do you see how they come across and then go down into a center point, and then exactly the same on the other side? Let me turn this little dress around so you can see the back also. You see, this is the fourth triangle right here, and it buttons over so the little dress can be buttoned. Absolutely simple and sweet. Let me show you one more detail while I have it here. The little entredot in between the arm's eye and the sleeve. All in all, a really precious little dress. For our Sewing from the Heart segment today, I have a letter from Sissy Davis from Baton Rouge, Louisiana. She has a really sweet newspaper article that went over Associated Press. May I please read a couple of paragraphs? Sewers needed to help put together baby dresses. These baby dresses are used for infants who die at Earl K. Long Hospital. The infants are presented to their parents and family to hold and to say their goodbyes. Obtain a dress kit with everything cut and ready to sew. Now women like Sissy Davis patiently cut patterns of tiny gowns from soft cloth, creating shrouds for the dead babies. They bring them to the hospital a dozen at a time, always dreading the call for another shipment. The letter says, enclosed is an article about the women in our church who are using their talents of sewing. Anyone wishing information on how to get this project started in their community may contact us through our church, which is the First Presbyterian Church of Baton Rouge, Louisiana. Sissy further writes, our church established a sister church in Russia last year. I have been asked to make a christening dress for the Russians to use at their christening ceremonies. I plan to use what I've learned from watching your program and reading your books on heirloom sewing. Thanks for the teaching. Sissy, this is a lovely project that you and your friends at the First Presbyterian Church in Baton Rouge, Louisiana are doing for those less fortunate. And I really think that's exciting that you're going to make the christening dress for our friends in Russia also. Thank you so much for joining me today in my sewing room. I hope you can be with us next time.